Welcome to the Vendep SaaS Camp session number 3 of Spring 22. I'm Johanna Fagerstedt, the Platform and Marketing Director at Vendep. The speaker we have today, she has been named one of the world's top women leaders in SaaS, most engaged marketer of the year, and future female leader. She is Johanna Fagerstedt, the CMO at fast-growing SaaS platform Quinyx, which is one of the Sweden's most successful startups. Today, Johanna joins us to share her learnings and advice on Smarketing alignment, how to transform from a lead machine to a revenue team. To get the conversation started, please answer the poll posted on your screens. So welcome, Johanna. Can you please start by telling us a little bit about yourself and Quinyx before jumping into the topic of the day?
Yes, sure. And really nice to be here. And let me just share my screen. Let's see. There we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Brilliant. So my name is Johanna Fagerstedt. I'm the CMO at Quinyx and passionate about growth strategies, about sales and marketing alignment. And I am honored to get the chance to be here with you today. But before we kick it off, like we said, we would like to do a short check-in with you. So we would like to see how many of you here today have got growth as your most important target, how many of you are in sales or in marketing, and how many of you are struggling with that cooperation between sales and marketing. So let's fill in that poll and get back to those questions later. Brilliant. So today I look forward to share my learnings, some wins, some mistakes from the journey I've been on. I joined Quinyx back in 2010 when we were 7 employees at the time. Today we're more than 350 employees. We just raised our Series C in December at a valuation of 5.2 billion Swedish kroners. That would be equal to approximately €500 million. So what has been the keys to this scale-up journey, and what has Smarketing, our revenue team, got to do with it? Well, let's start with Quinyx as a company, and let me just click here. There we go. We were founded when our CEO and founder, Eric Fjellborg, worked extra at McDonald's in Sweden. And he realized the struggle that his manager had to try to get his employees to fill shifts at restaurants. And he would often get several phone calls a day with requests to jump in. It was inefficient, it was time consuming. So he decided to create an online scheduling tool where the employees would be able to see an overview of their shifts, be able to swap shifts with each other, and where the manager would get a full overview of when everyone was working. And McDonald's became our first customer and are still customers to this day. And today, many years later, the solution has evolved to a sophisticated AI-driven workers management system and an app covering scheduling, time and attendance, connections to payroll, forecasting, employee communication, and engagement. And customers would be, for example, food delivery companies like Volt, retail companies like Ritual Cosmetics or Swarovski, or Giganti or Elköp or Elgiganten, depending on what language you speak, to mention a few. And we got offices in Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, the UK, Germany, Netherlands, the US, and Australia. And then also a development office in Serbia, and customers operating in more than 40 countries. And when I speak about this, I was like reflecting back on this journey. It sounds so easy, but I think that all of us here know that it's nothing but easy. It's a lot of struggles and challenges along the way. So I thought that the more we can help out and kind of like share a few learnings, the better, right? So where to start? Where do I start? Well, from day one at Quinyx, we have been focusing a lot on growth, and in practice, of course, that means closing deals and getting happy customers, right? And that's, of course, in the DNA of a startup survival. You have to get that growth, otherwise you won't survive as a startup. You need to be super focused. And when I joined Quinyx as the first marketer and the only marketer, me and Andreas Sjölund, who is running our sales team, and who was also with the business at the time and still is, we decided to really team up and to ensure to work really closely as a team, sales and marketing, that we would be one close tag team. And we started calling ourselves the Smarketing team. So market analysis and strategy in all its glory, but the most important things is really to have that joint connection and that teamwork, and to have a shared focus and shared goals. You really have to start from the top. That's where it all begins. You need to be aligned also on the company level, and to see what's our focus and how much should we grow and how should we get there. So one thing that has helped us a lot, and I'm not sure about, I think that this might be familiar to quite a few of you, but introducing the OKR framework has been a really good thing to really align the company. And also the more we grow, the better. But this is also something I would see work really well in a smaller startup. So it basically means that you set the company OKR, so the objectives, key results at top. And then, so that could be for us, that would be what should our ARR number be for the year, and how many end users, for example, should we reach. So that would be a couple of our key objectives. And then a few more metrics. And then every department look at what metrics should we have to really contribute to this. And then you take it down to the next level. So looking at every individual, what should be my results and our objectives of the year to really ensure that we reach the team goals. And then if all the teams reach their goals, we'll reach the company goal. And then follow up with that on a monthly basis, and then on a quarterly basis, and then see if anything needs to be tweaked, really have a close and tight communication around those objectives. And also about the target group. So really making sure to align the sales targets, the goals for customer satisfaction, the goals for product developments. And once that's in place, you need to really find out, like, who are we going to market for and who are we targeting? And that brings us to the next topic, to really have a tight target group definition. And that would be something that we've been focusing on quite a lot from the beginning. So really trying to understand, where do we have a good product market fit? Because I found, looking back, it's quite easy. And when I speak with lots of scale-ups today or startups, it's easy to get carried away. And you need to have that level of a bit of trial and error, and be a bit optimistic in the beginning to test where your product really fits. But what is important is also not to lose sight of things that are really working, and that tight target group, and really understand, like, which industry are we operating in? How many employees, for example, if that's important for you? What roles, what personas do we want to talk to, and what are they interested in? What are their key pain points, and how can we bring content, messages that are relevant to them, and that would like to show them how we can solve their problems. And then, of course, what geographical markets, if that's relevant for your business model, are we targeting? And then when you've done that analysis, go even deeper. So can we find some key characteristics where, if we find our champions, our most happy customers, what do we see are the common denominators there? For us, it would be, for example, they would get a complex scheduling and a complex setup, like a wide diversity of their business models, lots of stores in different countries. They would have a growth focus, a business focus on their employees, for example, and a key other characteristics. And we would know that if we could check those boxes, we would be a really, really good fit for them. And nothing could beat us there, basically. And then you would need to align the whole company around this. Because if you really find that target group, then you would market to the right target group, you would sell to the right target group, you would get happy customers who would then really have a really positive effect on that whole kind of like wheel.
Could I jump in before you?
Yes, sure.
Shouting a question in between. Going back to the KPIs you mentioned, what would be your advice on sort of choosing the KPIs for early stages? So what's the most important KPI in your opinion?
A few KPIs. I mean, of course, sales. You need to focus on sales. Otherwise, you won't have a business. So in our world, that would be ARR, annual recurring revenue, if you're in that kind of business model, and if you're in SaaS, which I think that many of us here are. So that would be one thing. But then you would also have the the NPS, for example. So really monitor, depending on how you do that, if you want to run an NPS poll, or if you just are in close contact with your customers. And then we're also looking at net retention rate, which means, are you able to really keep your customers, and are you able to upsell and cross-sell on them? Because if you get that kind of like subscription model right, and if you have happy customers, that's one of the most powerful things you can have. That goes to everything you base your content around. It goes to your reputation on the market. And I'll come to that later, but happy customers, it's, I would say it's the strongest lead source, which is sometimes hard to, it's sometimes easy to miss when you're really focused on new acquisitions and new sales, to forget about those customers. So never lose sight of your happy customers, I'd say.
Yeah, I hear you. And traditionally, sales and marketing sort of own different parts of the pipeline, and they might even see it very differently. How you mentioned that you, right from the beginning, you decided to work really closely with the sales. So yes. How did you create a joint understanding and sort of commitment to the whole pipeline?
I would, to be honest, I would say it was a bit of a trial and error from the start. We started off being quite traditional. What I would measure leads, and our sales director would measure sales, and that would create quite a lot of friction, so to say. We quickly realized that when we don't have shared goals, there is friction in between the teams that is just unnecessary, because then you spend time on things that aren't bringing the business forward and not bringing the teams forward. So when you measure leads, then you suddenly become into that nitty-gritty of, why are the leads not moving into the next stage? Are they not ready to buy? Is it because of the sales not reaching out early enough, or was it not a good qualification from the start? You end up in lots of conversations like that. So what we've done is going from leads, MQLs, into opportunities and pipeline. So currently we're looking, of course, a lot at the ARR, but then having a pipeline and also closed sales as our joint targets. But especially pipeline is what unites us. So really, how much pipeline do we need to bring in basically every quarter in order to ensure reaching our sales goals? And then we can backtrack that to see what are the conversion rates per stage and do that calculation. So we base all of our marketing goals on our sales goals. And then we look at the lead cycle. So if we have a sales goal, and then we say that for us, it would be a lead cycle of approximately 9 months. We're in targeting mid-market to enterprise, so the deals are pretty large. It takes some time to get them across, and it's often quite a few stakeholders. Then it means that 9 months prior to that, we would need to have X times the sales goals in pipeline in place. And if we ensure that, then we can ensure that we have a predictable growth and reach our sales goals.
Wonderful, thank you. And for the audience, remember to post your questions to the Q&A section. So post them there, and we'll be answering those during this session, or at least in the end of the Q&A section. But sorry, Johanna, keep going. Sorry.
Yes, brilliant. So yes, so ICP, or ideal customer profile, that's also something that's important to be aligned upon. Who are you targeting? Who are your so-called champions that really would have a huge effect and would get a win out of buying your solution or product? And in marketing, we've been talking a lot about the ICP, but what we see and also what brings us closer to sales is to go for the IICP, the intent ideal customer profile. And that's quite interesting, because what you do then is that means that you need to really look into the buying cycle of the customers to understand that, are they currently in procurement? Are they out there looking for a solution? And for us, currently, we've been lucky enough to have really, really sophisticated tools to be able to track that. We are currently implementing 6 Sense, who gives a really good indication of the so-called dark funnel. But I would say if you're a smaller company, you can do this yourself by start mapping out basically all your prospects that you're speaking with, and start adding that into your CRM or some kind of system, so to keep track of basically what vendors are they currently using, where are they in their sales process, and then make sure to really work closely as a sales and marketing team to follow up on that. So you also make sure to have timing on your side. And then we go to the 90%. So when I say 90%, this is a really cool study. We actually, in the marketing team, we invited an author of the book called Contagious, Jonah Berger. So that's a real tip if you haven't read that one. It's about how you make messages contagious on social media and on the market. So it's a really big tip. And we invited him for a call with our marketing team. And then he described the research that he had done, showing that more than 90% of all B2B sales is linked to your current customers somehow. And just imagine the message of that research. 90% of all your sales is somehow related to your current customers. So for me, it's just a no-brainer. What should you be focusing on a lot as a marketer and as an organization? It's of course the customers, to really make sure to make them happy. So that means that with those insights, we decided to really take it to the next level. So we went from having a really close sales and marketing cooperation and as marketing team to start working really closely with our CSM team. So going from Smarketing to a revenue team, it means that we're looking at both the part of the acquisition. So how can we get in new deals, new customers, but how can we also make sure to support throughout the journey and really make sure to stay with the customers and then use them and work with them, ensure that they're happy, see how we can work together as a team. Because if you have happy customers, that will spread on the market. It will make your life so much easier. So do all you can to really have your customers, get to know you and really love you as a company. So one thing that we discovered then in this process was something that's called the bow tie model. And this is also something that I would really, really recommend everyone to take a look at, because it's so easy to lose sight of your focus when you are in that high growth stage and you really just want to close the next deal. It's easy to just go and sell. But where we can really make a difference is both looking at the acquisition part and the retention part. And especially if you're in SaaS, it's so crucial. If you will just continue, then you will have that amazing snowball effect, right? So make sure to, as a sales and marketing team, support throughout the journey. Never lose sight of your customers. And this may sound simple, but the most important thing I would also say is really to think big, from there to think really, really big, and then break it down into smaller parts and start now. And I think that in everything you do as a company, it's sometimes if you're a small startup, it's easy to see where you are now, but keep having those big ambitions and then just take it step by step and celebrate small victories. So this is actually my motto in life, to always think big, and that has helped me a lot in the startup and then the scale up world. So we have our big ambitions. We need to have that as being a part of these kind of companies. We need to have our big ambitions and believe that we're going to change the world. On the other hand, when you're starting off, you're not quite there, so you need to take it step by step, but you still need to get kind of like that wheel rolling, and that's what will bring success in the end. So to wrap things up then, before we go into more of the questions, so created a bit of a checklist. So ensure to have shared goals, sales and marketing, but also with a wider organization to really have a focus as a company. And also trust that focus. Don't lose sight of it, because it's also part of being in a founder, fast-paced companies, easy to lose sight of our focus and to be really enthusiastic about new ideas or opportunities as comes up. So have a think about, could you set aside some time for innovation and a bit of testing, but be mindful of your focus and the things that are really working and your customers. And then have a tight target group. So really make sure to have that tight target group. And I wrote startup style because often when you are a startup, you really need to have, you don't have that big marketing budget or that big sales team. So you really need to be focused and to zoom in and do things that really brings, bang for the buck when it comes to your marketing spend, because sometimes it might even be you have nothing in marketing spend. So you need to be really creative and then go specific. And then IICP is the new black. Make sure to focus in and zoom in, especially on your targets that are in a buying stage. So be really close to sales and have, as a marketer, I mean, you need to have a commercial mindset in order to succeed, right? And then team up as a revenue team. Ensure that you have happy customers and things will come your way. Work with the full bow tie, so both the acquisition part and the retention part, to really make sure to be a tight team around that. And then think big, act small, and start now.
Wonderful. We have questions coming in. Thank you, Johanna.
Should I stop sharing my screen?
No, you can. I think the checklist is perfect, actually.
Okay.
First, trying to organize everything so we have sort of some structure here. I'd like to go back to your leadership and the part you were mentioning about the focus. I've been listening to your interview where you described the importance of sort of setting aside some time to reflect philosophy. Can you tell us a little bit about it, and how do you actually do it in fast-paced scale-up environment, and is it something you do yourself, or is it something your whole team sort of?
Yes, that's a great question. I think this is so vital, because being in a high-paced growth company is so easy to get carried away, and it's always lots and lots of things to do. It's more things to do than you've got hours in a day. So really ensuring to setting aside time for reflection and to kind of like getting your focus right, to make sure to do the things that move the needle and not just things that are in front of you is so important. One example of things that I've done to really put into a process is I created a game show concept with the team, where we try, at least on a quarterly basis, sometimes it's on a monthly basis, we do something I call the win and bin game show, where everyone presents at least one thing that's the win of the month or the win of the quarter. And then one thing that they would like to bin, and then an explanation why, and then one key learning from the quarter. And then we do that, go all the way around the team to really make sure. And of course, the reason being to set aside time to reflection, to really understand what things have we done that really have moved the needle, and what are the things that we tried that didn't work out that we should stop doing, and what's my key learning from this, to make sure to always have a growth mindset and to set aside time for reflection. Because what I've discovered is it's so easy, just to do things, but it's so important when you want to grow fast and when you have limited resources, which all of us do, no matter how big you are, to do the right things and things that really makes a difference. And then the OKR framework has also been really important and a big game changer there. So what we've done is, setting big goals for the company, breaking that down per team, breaking it down per individual, and then do monthly check-ins. Where are we now? What's the status? What actions do we take to really reach our goals? And how can we work closely together to get there?
Wonderful. Still sort of thinking about getting the perspective. On 2 occasions, you stepped off Quinyx and then returned in the middle of very big change. First time was your when you stepped into the consulting world, and the second time was when you sort of went off to a parenting leave, and when you returned, the COVID had hit. Can you reflect on those moments and what were your thoughts? Because stepping aside could give a good perspective on the company, a little different view when you are not there in the day-to-day operations.
Yes, definitely. I think that's also, having been with a company for so long now, I think those moments of reflection and being a bit away have been critical to really get perspective, because what that has given me is a chance to kind of like reform my mission and the role. So really coming back and looking at the company with new eyes. But I think also, you know, a longer vacation and just a break could actually create that same effect. So that's also learning to, because it's easy to, in the beginning, we were working, you know, day and night and, you know, holidays and weekends, and that's what you do in the beginning. But setting aside some time to really reflect and coming back means that you come in with a fresh pair of eyes and you suddenly see clearly on your priorities. And going back to, so I spent 3 years in management consulting. So I joined Quinyx in 2010. Went there for a while when we were a small company, went into strategy management consulting for 3 years, came back 2014. And that meant that I had a completely new toolkit to use and a data-driven mindset, more of a structured approach to growth, which was very valuable. And also I kept in touch with Eric, the founder, and it felt like great. I couldn't really let go of like passion and the journey that was ahead. So that was the reason I came back. And the second time, actually it's 2 times more, because I got 2 kids. That's been parental leave, and it's also been really useful, because what you need to do then going away for a while, you need to really do a handover. So you need to reflect upon all the things you do, put structure into place, and you also get questions like, why are you doing this? What's the goal of this when you hand it over to someone? So it really causes, you know, it's a great break, and coming back, it also, you can choose a bit what you want to take on and what you want to leave behind. So, and being in a growth company, it means that you need to, so if you're growing like 50% year over year, it means that you as a professional need to grow professionally and personally, at least at the same pace as the company. And it requires a growth mindset. It means always being able to reflect on things that works and looking ahead, like what are companies ahead of me doing and how can I learn fast from that? Because if you don't, you're suddenly out of date and don't bring any value to the company. I guess that's the harsh truth.
Yeah, thank you. And that brings us to the team. Thinking of the early stage SaaS company, what should be the first marketing hire? Any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, so we've kept on doing that since we opened up new markets quite a few times. It means that we're bringing in new people into new markets. A couple of things that have been important to me is to bring in someone who's a bit experienced and who can help guide and really team up with the sales team. So it needs to be someone with a bit of experience, have a marketing background, of course, but also to have someone with a commercial mindset. And then have a growth mindset, like we spoke about before, to be able to really pick up on trends, understand the market, quickly get into things, and also be a doer. So not only be someone who got a lot of great plans, but also be able to execute on them. You need to have both. And then also a person who can grow and then be able to build a team around them, because if things go according to plan, they will suddenly and quite soon be able to hire as well, right? Yeah. So have someone who can grow with a company, but still be very operational and in the day-to-day and work closely with sales.
Yeah, very, very thorough answer. Here's an interesting question from the audience. In addition to the sales and customer success teams, do you work with the product team? What is the primary interaction like?
Yes, we do. So we have the luxury of having a product marketing team. They are amazing. They are working really closely with a product team and with sales. You don't need to have a product marketing team, but I think it's important to have that view as well in the company. And it's really to have someone who can take all of that value from the product and go to market with it and put it into a nice package or into a nice context and help making things a bit clear, I would say, and structure that and be kind of like that bridge between product and sales and marketing and bring it to market. So yes, we do.
Yeah, there's more questions about the marketing team size. And so what's your ideal marketing team size? Who does what at early stage startup? Sort of copywriter, discovery interviews, sketches, mockups, analysis?
Great question. I mean, that's so different depending on your size, right? Currently, I got a team of 25, which is crazy and such a luxury. When I started, it was only me. So I think I've seen lots of different faces. So it really depends. I mean, I think it's such a luxury to have. One thing, if I would go back, it took quite a while before I got a designer. We were focusing a lot on content in the beginning, and then it took a long time before we got design skills in-house. When we did that, it really took the brand to the next level. It helped our sales organization, our CSM organization. It also aligned really well with product. So if I would have a few roles, I would actually try to have a designer, which I didn't have. I would definitely have a digital marketer who could help out, the website, the infrastructure, marketing automation, nurture tracks, the MarTech tech stack, of course, SEO, so and Google Analytics and things like that, to be able to keep track of that. But all these roles could also be outsourced. So it depends on, of course, your level of investments and where you're at. Also great to have a content writer. It could be the marketer, him or herself, to have someone who really teams up with and do webinars, for example, podcasts, blog posts, or run events. So it really depends on also your business model and what type of company you're in. So we're in, B2B SaaS and moving towards enterprise. So the sales cycles are quite long and quite complex. We need to have a wide portfolio. We're also working a lot with partners. So there's lots of different pieces to the puzzle and lots of different players to keep in touch with once you go into a sales conversation. But if you're product led, or if you are targeting more like B2C, that could be very different as well. So it depends on what's working for your business model, and then to summarize is do more of the things that are working and really understand what's working, what messages, what channels, etc. And dare to test things and do less of the things that aren't.
Thank you. All questions are just pouring in, so I'll do my best to stay on track of all of this. Here's an interesting question going to actual day-to-day work. How do you validate that your content marketing works, and how much content should be an early stage company producing?
That is a good question with no clear answer. I would say, if I would have one piece of advice, focus your content around your happy customers and you'll be fine. Do webinars with happy customers, share their expertise, share their success stories, put your customers at center, and you will have a really nice effect of that. And I would say that the amount of content is not the important thing. The important thing is that you have relevant content that resonates with your prospects and your customers, so that it creates value. And then one thing that I see quite a lot is it's a tendency to create a lot of content, but then not putting enough time on distributing the content. So rather have a couple of really good pieces, so-called hero content, and just repeat and repeat and repeat, because when you are tired of it, it might be that your target group hasn't even seen it. So reuse, repeat, and rather go, few good content pieces and go all in than to do lots of things that aren't being heard on the market.
Definitely. And what's the role of the brand here? When is the right time to start investing in the brand development, or does it come as a result of other activities?
That's also a great question. I would say the brand is actually everything you do as a company, right? Or that's the way I see it as a marketer. So the brand is every single customer interaction. It's It's the way your customer service like speaks with their customers. It's your product. That's an important part of your brand. Of course, it's your PR activities, it's your design, it's your voice, it's your message, but it's every single touch point. So regardless if you have someone in charge of your brand or not, there will be a brand that you will need to take into account and somehow be mindful of and steer in the right direction. So I'm not sure about the answer here, but the brand, you'll have a brand regardless of what you do. And my advice would be to, take care of it and cherish it.
Yeah, definitely. And I completely agree that the customer is in the center. So nurturing the relationship with the customer actually probably is the best thing you can do for the brand.
Yeah. Oh, and it's also, lots of research has shown that strong brands also, it has that positive effect. So if you have a really strong brand and a strong kind of like brand personality, so your customers know what you stand for, your employees know what you stand for, then you'll also have a really good snowball effect on that. You'll have more committed customers. You can create kind of like a community around your brand. And your employees will also feel more connected to your company and will feel part of something bigger. So it's really, and then also research has shown that stronger brands also have a higher valuation. So I think it's also actually an investment to look into.
Wonderful. Then there is a question about go-to-market strategy. What's your thought on go-to-market strategies when opening a new market? And could you walk us through how typically you open new markets?
Yes, that's a good one as well. It's actually one of my favorite topics. So with Quinyx, I've been fortunate enough to head our German market expansion and our US market expansion. That was more about structure. And then before that, we also went into the UK, the Netherlands, and then the Nordic countries. But a couple of things is to do the homework, to really understand the market before. So before going into a market, really look at like, do we have a good product market fit? If you would have a few customers that already start using your product in that country, that's also a really good indication. But make sure to go down to the country, speak with lots of customers who've done that journey before, take advice from companies who are there, and try to have someone or a few companies to help you out in that country too, because it's invaluable. You need to start having connections with recruiters. There's a thousand things when it comes to admin, depending on what country. It could be when we went into the US, it's so much to do with, visa registrations and setting up a legal entity in the US. And you need to understand the insurance packages in the US, etc. So for us in the US, we teamed up with our investor Battery Ventures and decided to start off with we decided to locate our office in Boston because they were close, and that was really convenient. And then they connected us with their network, which made it a bit easier, but still lots and lots of things to do. Also, what we did was really, to have someone who's in charge of that. So have a project manager running the project who can map out all the activities that you need to have in place. And then have someone on the ground. So it's really easy to create different cultures. And when you start hiring people in a new country, they might come in with another perception of what you are, how to sell the product, or what the culture is. So try to send a few people from the management team, if possible, to live and relocate to that country for a few years with their families, if that's possible. If not, make sure to have a really, really high presence in that country and give lots of support. Set up milestones, deliverables, and stay close to that market, because often there's so much more work than you would expect, because being, startup or scale up, you're quite optimistic. I know, for example, in Germany, when we heard from everyone, it would take us around 3 years before we were successful. It's like what everyone told us. And we were like, yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll make it in 1 year. Then after 3 years, everything just started clicking. It's like, so we needed to have that local presence. It was a bit of we needed to have grit to support the team, to show that we were committed to the market, that we weren't there we weren't there for a short time, we were there to stay. But then when it really hit off, it's like you have a big market. And then also it's almost as much work to start off in a small market as it is in a larger market. So also look at, the market size, the TAM, the total addressable market. You can just as well go into a large market if you're going to do all that work. So if you're choosing between, I don't know, Norway and Germany, might as well do Germany.
So how has Quinyx chosen the markets?
Oh, that's also a good question. In the beginning, we started off with the Nordic markets because we had lots of customers running operations in those countries. And then we have been a bit, I would say, testing the markets. So ensuring that we had a few customers in the markets to test product market fit before making the decision of going in. But before we started, went into Germany, we had that trade-off. Should we do US or Germany first? And then we decided let's go with Germany first because it's easier with time zones. It's also the actual distance is easier and closer. So when we had to open up Germany, we made the decision to, as a second step, do the US, because you also have that, depending on the business model, of course, and where you're gonna, how much resources you're gonna put into markets. Distance, time zones is also something that will change the dynamic in the company. You need to start thinking differently in meetings and how to interact between the teams and set up structures for that, etc.
Yeah, and actually that brings me to another interesting topic you could probably talk all day about, but any thoughts on managing the company culture in distributed organization?
Yeah, I think I would say we're almost all experts on that nowadays, right? So having worked from home and we've all been distributed. From my perspective, having now teams in several countries and also continents, it's actually been a good thing for company culture. It's been more democratic conversation. You need to ensure to have transparency, to have a clear communication, to have things in writing, to have a bit of more structure on things. What we discovered before the pandemic was actually that we had, one office in the head, one culture in the head office where it was really easy to, to have a coffee with someone and then make a decision, and then you would forget to inform another colleague. So the so-called satellite offices, or all other offices except for Sweden, could feel a bit excluded. Whereas nowadays we're in it on equal terms, and everyone has got a voice and an overview in another way. So I would actually say it's been good for a company culture and a bit more inclusive. But what we are really keen on now is just starting to meet each other again, because you, of course, miss that personal element. And what I've discovered is it's easy to go into focus mode and be a bit more siloed. So tendency has been for every team to like marketing, assuming that marketing is more focusing on marketing and sales is more focusing on sales. So it requires more to be that cross-functional. You need to have a lot of meetings to make that work. With communication tools, of course, as well.
Of course, yeah. Then going to a question of sort of a sales model, we have seen most of the startups are either very successful with inbound or with outbound, but not both. Firstly, is that correct observation or not? And if yes, how do you identify which one is a fit?
That's a good one. I would say for us at least, we need to have both. Inbound is something that you would build along the time. And I mean, of course, you could spend lots of time on marketing, good SEO, great content. The good thing that I've discovered when it comes to the way I see inbound is that's the way you can like capture the demand. So the things that are out there on the market, you can do a great job capturing them. But if you want to be proactive and reach out to the people who might not be there. So before, now might be contradicting myself a bit, but we spoke about the ICP before. So to create those relationships, it's still crucial to have outbound. You need to, at least for us, it depends on your business model, of course, but at least for us, our account executives or sales executives, they need to be out there, communicate with their network. We need to have BDRs or business development representatives also making sure to proactively reach out. And then we have, of course, a partner ecosystem and partner network who also do more outbound. So I don't think it's a right or wrong. For us, both are very important, and we couldn't do one without the other.
Yeah, I hear you. Then a bit more tactical questions. Do you have any tips for the nurturing process? Traditionally, marketing does that. How does that look like in your company?
That is a great question as well. The most important thing is to start understanding your customers and then creating content that is relevant to them. So understand, could you start mapping out where they are in the buyer's journey? Could you connect them to either a specific, are they based on specific verticals or other characteristics that will unite them, where you could see that this content really works, for example. And then start testing. I mean, really look at the data. We have amazing tools nowadays that could really give us a good indication of things that are working or not. And then speak with your customers, have a close dialogue. But the most important thing is to, once you get them into your database, check in now and then. I think there are different, it doesn't need to be super sophisticated, but as long as you're aligned upon that and you make sure to now and then check in with your database, see where they're at, invite them to, I mean, could even be, sales reach out and ask for a lunch or just, a phone call to check in and see where they are. That's the most important thing. And then you can do super refined nurturing. You can also do quite basic. And I think it really depends on your business.
Okay, then there is, well, this is actually rather a tactical question as well, but I think it's sort of it's a nice follow-up for the previous one. How do you measure ad efficiency right away? Can you share practices along the way?
Measure ad efficiency. What we do is really, so now I have a luxury of having a digital marketing team with like an SEO expert and a growth expert. So that's and then we have like great agencies to support us. But what we did before we had that, it's all about, you have a budget and you see and test what's working. So just stay close to the numbers, be ready to tweak, do A/B testing. But what we're looking at is, the ROI. So we start looking at what's the spend, how many, I would actually say I'm moving and leaning more towards looking at what are the MQLs, how many of those will convert into an SQL or a sales accepted, a qualified lead, and then are they moving into actual pipeline opportunities, and are they then being closed? To really understand, like, are we on the right track? Are we bringing in sales in the end? That's actually what I care about.
Definitely. And diving even deeper, what about the privacy? Do you take privacy into consideration when starting a marketing campaign? Do you have a framework to check whether the campaign is not violating individuals' privacy rights?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, you have to, of course, comply with GDPR. So yeah, that's what we do. We have a process around that. You need to actively, if it's inbound, you need to comply with that, opting in. And then we also have with all the send outs that are going out or having, opt out, unsubscribe options, for example. But we do have a framework around that and are also careful of how we treat our data stack. But I would also say it doesn't need to be that complicated. If you are in B2B, it's also, if you have a relevance towards your target group, you can still, it also depends on the country. Some countries have stricter data privacy rules. I know that Denmark, for example, is slightly different than Sweden, despite the GDPR, but just check in on the rules. And then, I mean, if you're uncertain of how to treat that, it's so many companies have done that before you. So check with your network on how they've done it. I actually haven't heard that many cases of of marketing being, feed or fined for any misuse. So as long as you have that option to opt out and are mindful about it, I wouldn't be too worried.
You briefly talked about sort of localization. Here's a question. Quinyx operates in several countries. How important localization in your service, marketing or customer service? Are you using English or local languages?
That's a good one. We are using local languages. So we are translating everything actually. It's quite a lot of job, of course. I think it's 8 languages if we would separate British and American English. However, when it comes to our business model, it makes sense because our competition is local. So in Finland, for example, we will be competing towards Finnish competition. So it's really important for us to have, Finnish product, Finnish websites, a Finnish team in place. But it really depends on your target group. Since our business model is very niche towards specific local labor regulations, etc., it needs to really understand the market regulations in every specific market. And since competition is often very niche and very local, we need to be that as well. And then the big, I would say the big benefit that we would have is that we have an international organization as well. So it's quite difficult to scale that. It takes a lot to get that into development. But it really depends on your business model. I mean, for example, looking at HubSpot, who are targeting marketers, they're running basically all of their marketing in English because their target group is so used to working in English, same with Salesforce, etc. So yeah, look at your target group and understand the market landscape, and then base your decision on that. Customer focus.
Definitely. Again, the customer.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Here's a question about your marketing and sales tech stack.
Oh, yes, that's a good one. So what is the question? It's how we've based it, or a key?
This is more about sharing sort of what kind of tech stack you are using.
Yeah, sure. So we're using Salesforce as our CRM. We are using HubSpot for marketing automation. It's monitoring, tracking. Also, we have the website in HubSpot. We also do use, let me have a think, of course, like we use the Google Suite, and then on top of that, what else? Lots of tools, but 6 Sense is a tool that we just implemented, which is an ABM tool. So since we are moving towards account-based marketing, so being really niched on the accounts, it also means that we can have a really good overview there. Another tool that we implemented quite recently is Gong. So if you want to really kind of understand your sales conversations and be able to listen in on them and get some insights and also coach the sales team, that has been really spreading like wildfire. Everyone wants to use it in our organization. Then, of course, communication tools like Slack is important for us. We also use Confluence for our intranets, and for project management and marketing, we use Asana. Amazing tool. So we've been quite lucky to have quite a wide tech stack, but it's also been important for us to be able to communicate across all the countries. So I guess you need to choose and see what's the need of your business and the stage you're at. In the beginning, we first years we barely had a CRM.
Yeah, I guess it is sort of a difficult in the beginning, and then you start learning along the way what are the tools that you actually need, and and sort of like trial and error is often the way to go, because that's the only way probably to find the best solution for your company.
Yeah. And also remember that, I mean, a tech stack or a tool is not a strategy. You need to kind of design the problem before you create the solution, right? So start with looking at the problem that you're going to solve, and then look at the solution. And I think that's one thing that I remind myself of now and then. It's really easy to go and find a nice tool or a nice solution, but take a break, then do some reflection. Is it really worth investing in? Do we need this? Do we need it now? Do we have time for a good implementation and, you know, to train the team, or are we just too busy closing deals?
So we've been talking about a lot of topics, you know, zooming in and out multiple times. Did we forget to ask you something really important? What is the question we should have asked? Or did we?
I'm not sure. Now, what I would say, if I would summarize this, I would really say, you know, think big, act small, start now, and focus on the customers, and happy customers, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect wrap up. We do still have one question that we usually always sort of end the webinar with. Sort of, can you tell us sort of one mistake you've made, and how did you fix it?
Oh, I would say another of my favorite quote is really, assumption is the mother of all fuck ups. So I would say assuming things without double checking, not communicating enough, because being in, you know, high-paced scale-up startup, things are moving so quickly, so many decisions are being made, and it's so often that you run into misunderstandings or assume things without having double checked, and that's kind of like when shit hits the fan. So always double check, over communicate, and never assume. That
sounds like a perfect advice to stop this or end this session with. Thank you, Johanna, so much. It's been a real pleasure having you, and a lot of good concrete advice from you. And for the audience, we'll be sharing the recording in YouTube, and you'll be hearing from us, and we'll send you the link so you can return to the session and keep sort of absorbing from the great advice that we have been given by Johanna. Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
Okay, bye-bye everyone, and see you at next Vendep SaaS Gap next fall.
Bye.